Let me ask you something. Are you getting everything out of your rent-to-own business? If you're not an A-Pro member, then the answer is probably no. Look, advocacy is A-Pro's bread and butter. This is why they were created and what they do best. But here's the thing. A-Pro membership is about way more than advocacy. A-Pro connects you to the movers and the shakers of the industry, people who've been there, done that, and they can help you do it even better. A-Pro's monthly webinars give you expert insights and actionable takeaways. It's like having a masterclass for your business every single month. Got questions about complex regulations or sticky situations? No problem. A-Pro's legal hotline gives you direct access to experts who have got the answers. That's a peace of mind that you can't put a price on. And let's not forget the resources, news, updates, and tools that keep you ahead of the curve. Scholarships for your team? Check. Disaster relief when you need it most? Double check. A-Pro is your ultimate support system in the rent-to-own world. So stop settling for less. With A-Pro, members get more. More support, more connections, and more success. Head over to rtohq.org and join the A-Pro family today. Because in this business, more isn't just better. It's essential. See you at the top with A-Pro. Welcome to the RTO Show. I'm your host, Pete Shau, and today we're talking with Ryan from Wowbrands. He has two roles over there, and I'm going to let him explain more about that. But guys, the reason that Wowbrands is on, and you guys know I talk everything rent to own, it's because these guys know what's going on, especially Ryan. They are deep into the rent to own space, and if you want to talk marketing, these are the guys you want to talk to. Now, the reason I say that, now you guys know we're sponsored by Gerard Norman Marketing. They actually introduced me. Gerard actually sat down with Ryan, had a little conversation with us. That's going to be coming out soon. But you really want to hear what he has to say because there's so much going on between the ecosystems and what they can do. Ryan, how you doing today? What's going on?
How you doing? Nice to see you again. Ryan from Wowbrands. I am the CEO/CTO, and I would say we've been doing RTO marketing for about 10 years now. Across the board, we started roughly 8-10 years ago in the very beginnings of mobile websites is where we started. We had customers coming to us needing mobile websites, and we've taken it from there to building CRM software and building lead management and vendor management and everything in the RTO sector.
So just so you guys are aware, I am talking to Ryan a little bit later in the day, and he's still at work, and he's dedicated to what he's doing. And the reason I say that is because, rent to own is not a 9-to-5, right? We do this all the time. And so we like to know that the people that we're dealing with are just as dedicated as we are in getting things done. And I want to say Ryan is that. So we met at RTO World 2024. Where Gerard kind of introduced us. And I've heard the name Wowbrands before. It's not like you haven't been heard of in the rent-to-own space. But you actually have quite a few people that work with Wowbrands right now. So I was already looking, and I saw you even have rent-to-own on there as part of people that you use.
Yeah. So, that's where we really started was 10 years ago. Mike came into the office, and he's always been at the forefront of marketing and technology and all the digital things. And he came in originally and was like, I've got a website, but it doesn't work on mobile devices. And he was a forerunner really in understanding that consumers are moving to mobile. And I just tell you right now, I think some of the websites that we manage are 85% mobile.
Yes.
So that he was a forerunner in that. And that's where we really got our start is we were working with Countryside or R2O, and we started with he needed a mobile website, and his website wasn't generating a lot of leads. So that's really where we got our start. And we went from there. And then I think about 6 months later, a year later, Showplace came in. And from there, we started to realize the opportunity. We've always done retail technology, retail software, anything in the retail sector. But we started to understand the niche, and we started to get, I would say, really good results with the sites that we were managing. And from there, it's just been a word of mouth thing. We've never done any marketing for anything like that. It's just been word of mouth, and it's friends of friends. And as you know, you've been to the A-Pro shows and the trip shows and the nationwide shows. It's just Everybody knows everybody. And when you provide, when you hopefully provide a good result, which I would say, and hopefully we have, that word of mouth and that referral gets around, and they tell their friends and they tell their friends and they tell their friends. And I think right now we represent roughly 300-ish and 300 storefronts that are all independent owner operators. Wow. And we do comprehensive, we started out doing comprehensive marketing. marketing. That means, how do I get my site ranked? How do I pull in traffic? How do I make sure I'm number one in Google and in any of the search engines? And we've taken it from there, and we really focused for the first part of our business on how to generate leads and get the leads in the door. So then we spent a lot of time on that. And then once we were successful in generating leads, we realized the next opportunity is, what the heck do I do with these leads? How do I make sure they're managed? How do I make sure that somebody calls them? How do I make sure that you text them? And to be fair, the younger generation wants text. Yes. The older generation doesn't, but the younger generation wants text. So you have to have these types of things. You've got to be able to communicate with your customers in a way they want. So we've not transitioned, but we've added to our product offering over the last couple of years, and specifically focused on, all right, now we've got leads and we've figured out the algorithm, figured out the model to generate leads in the RTO space. How do we start to manage those leads? So that's really where we spent the last couple of years, is trying to build software that allows for leads management and then integrates with things that you already use, such as Versa or High Touch or RTO Pro. I mean, you need that type of information at your fingertips, in my opinion, to be successful at trying to close these leads.
So when I'm looking at the website, right, if I'm somebody who's interested in Wowbrands, and then I go onto the website and I see the ecosystem name, what does that mean? Like in sense of, usually when we're talking about Apple, that means you come home and you sit down at your computer and it's integrated with your phone and it's integrated with your tablet. How does the ecosystem work with Wowbrands, and how does that affect the rent-to-own lead space and how it gets things done?
Yeah, so our primary integration, our primary ecosystem, it starts with marketing. It starts with generating marketing leads, and what that means is, does my website work? Is it good? Am I pulling in traffic? And when consumers come specifically on a mobile device, is it easy for them to convert? Is it easy for them to give us the information and find what they're looking for? So that's part one. Part two is, how do I make sure that when someone is looking for rent to own, that I'm number one? Because There's only one spot in Google for rent for number one. And our objective is to try to make sure that every store that we represent is in that number one position. So the next part of that is making sure you're ranked on Google. The next one after that is, what does my ads look like? Am I pulling in ads traffic? Because that's the reality of the world we're in today, which is that Google is adding more and more. I mean, I was just looking up the numbers before the call. And in the last year, Google's increased their ad revenue by 15%. It's not like there are new people that are searching. They just keep adding more ad spots. They keep adding more ad spots. And if you're not ranking, and if you're not running ads, somebody else is, and somebody else is going to steal
15%, just real quick, because that number actually means a lot to me. When we're talking about 15% of Google ad space, how much money does that equate to? Because Google probably does a few billion a year on ad space. 15% is a lot.
Search ad space is $48 billion. Wow. Somewhere in that ballpark. 40. I think 2023 was like $42 billion, and 2024 is 2020. The last 12 months, we're going for Q2 over Q2, was 42 billion last year and 48 billion this year. And you know what? Wow. It's not like they added new things. I mean, the only way they increased that revenue was to add more ads. So if you go to Google right now and search for anything, it doesn't matter, rent to own or whatever, you're now going to get sometimes 4 ads that show up before an organic result comes in.
Yes.
And 50-60% of the people don't make it past the ads. So if you're not running ads, you're kind of out of luck. Somebody else is stealing that traffic from you, even on your own brand name.
So how, because Wowbrands doesn't just do rent to own. And I think that's really important for people to understand, is that Wowbrand actually represents quite a bit more than the rent to own sector, but they have a whole, is it a division or an area where you have just honed in on rent to own, where you're able to take it on just like you do the big box retailers? Yeah.
So we do a lot of, let's say, in-store retail technology. So that's like in-store display stuff. It's in-store. It has a lot to relate to kiosk. It has a lot to relate to in-store displays. It has a lot to do with what is the conversion optimization for this stuff. Their IoT systems, how much water has my device dispensed in the last day or the last week or stuff like that. We have grown. What has happened is we started out really playing in the retail sector. And then over the last, I would say, 3 or 4 years, rent to own is now something like 80 to 90% of our business. We are primarily doing rent to own just because we understand the opportunity there. And the customers that we work with are seeing a tangible result. And they're the ones that are referring us. So our opportunity as we kind of go into the future is really going to be around, what is the technology solutions we can build? How do we continue to expand on marketing? How do we give the consumers what they want as really consumer behavior changes?
So when you talk about integration? Because you mentioned three primary users of how we do our operating software. So you mentioned VersaRent, you mentioned High Touched, and you mentioned, is it ProRent?
RTO Pro.
RTO Pro, right.
It's the, yeah.
So those three I know are largely in the top five, probably in the top three, right?
Yeah.
So in that situation, that integration, if I was to have one of those three, and you're covering 85 to 90% of rent to own, if not even more than that, how is the integration with those systems? I mean, can I expect Wowbrands to, like, let's say we give you a call, Ryan, things are going well. You probably were not going to talk exactly to Ryan, but you're going to call it somebody, right? And they're going to get somebody on it, right? And so they come in. How good is the integration? Is there steps that they need to follow? Is it already done in the system where you can say, we've already tried and true this? This is really, really good to go, and it's only up to the tier that you want to do. How does that work?
Let's take a quick break.
Hey everyone, it's Pete Shau here from the RTO Show podcast, and I want to tell you about a company that's making a real difference in the rent-to-own space, Wowbrands. I've seen firsthand how they approach marketing, and let me tell you, it's not just about ads. Wowbrands builds complete digital ecosystems designed specifically for the rent-to-own industry. Their e-commerce and lead generation strategies are built to bring in qualified leads. And did I mention that they are actively working with the rent-to-own industry while also being members of APRO and TRIB? Listen, these folks are passionate problem solvers. They don't just slap something together. They design, build, and scale the kind of digital retail tools your business needs and your customers actually want. So if you're serious about growing, reach out to Wowbrands at wowbrands.com. I trust them, and I think you will too.
Yeah, so we try to focus on, again, for us, it's about lead generation. So I've got a lead. I got a lead in front of me. How do I provide you the tools to best convert that lead? That's really what we're trying to get at. So when we're integrating with somebody like, it doesn't matter, VersaRent or High Touch or any of them, when a customer comes in, you're going to want to know a couple things. Number one, are they active? Do we have active agreements with them? Are they past? Do we have past agreements with them? Has anybody ever talked to this customer in the last couple of years? As long as you're using a CRM software. We've had customers on our variations of our CRM for 8 years, 7 years at this point. So you can look and see what's the note, who's the last person to talk to them, what did they say, what was the sales process look like. If you have a VoIP system, we'll do things like VoIP integration so we can see, did somebody actually call this customer? How many times have I called this customer over the last couple of years? How many times has the customer called us? How much time have we spent talking with the customer? We also have things like texting built into the system. So you can also see any text conversation you've ever had with this customer is just in like an iMessage type of history that you can see that in.
That's deep. I mean, you're really going deep into it.
Yeah. We try to give you what you need. Number one is, are my salespeople, are they making the calls? Are they texting? Are they reaching out to consumers? Because we started out in the beginning of, we're getting a lot of leads, but they're junk. I was told they're junk leads. Then you get into the data of looking at the junk leads. You didn't text them. You didn't call them. You didn't email them. What'd you do? Right? Maybe a junk lead, but you didn't reach out. So
we can't technically justify a junk lead yet until we know that
exactly.
It's dead, right? And I think I think the only lead we know of now is either an active lead or a dead one, because we have to work it until we know that it's not good, right? I mean, that's kind of
Absolutely.
like RTO sales 101. You work a lead till they say, don't call me anymore.
Until they opt out or tell you to,
right.
Stop calling me. You keep working it.
You're now on that list where you should not call me ever. And then you go, okay, I got it. Hands down, I get it.
You opt you out and you're good to go. But it's all about, and I would say really in the last, COVID facilitated this. COVID pulled forward the there was a technology. Everyone was headed to a digital space. COVID just forced 10 years of change into 1 month. So it became the sales cycle has changed over the last 3 to 4 years, and really since COVID. You have to reach out to the consumer. They're not walking into your door at the same capacity that they were before. And I think you can back that up with all kinds of data sources, as well as, you live there, you live this world.
I'm telling you, yes.
The foot traffic is not there. And what has happened is it really has facilitated like a change in consumer behavior. And the biggest opportunity and challenge is the retraining of the RTO sales force to be able to accommodate that and to work and understand that world is much different than it was 20 years ago. It's much different than it was 10 years ago.
Yes.
And you have to especially in the younger generation, they're not walking into your store. That's not how it works anymore. Anyone under the age of 35 is typically not going to do that. They're going to shop online. And especially when we're talking about big ticket items, furniture, appliances, those are big ticket items, electronics somewhat, but those are big ticket items that sometimes you're going to look at 10 different websites before you make a purchase.
Yes.
Simple as that. You're going to price check, you're going to compare. And if there's a direct correlation with close rates and time to respond. If you don't respond in a fast fashion, and sometimes that's under a couple hours, you're not going to close that lead. It's just not going to happen. They've already moved on.
I got a question for you because a lot of people ask me this and I actually don't have the answer to this. So when we're talking about, because we do know that they go out, they're shopping with their fingers, right? Normally on the phone, like you said, 85%. Most of them are on their phone. And the only time they're on the desk is probably because they're at work or they're doing something on a desktop and they remember, hey, I got to do this. So they're jumping through, right? And they're starting to see, hey, I like this or I like that. How important is pricing versus getting to that lead as soon as possible?
What do you mean by what do you mean by that?
So
pricing?
Like let's say somebody has a sofa, brand A sofa. Okay. Brand A sofa is $19.99. Yep. They go somewhere else and it's called brand B sofa, but it's really brand A. It's both from Ashley or Progressive, wherever. And so they're saying it's $18.99. How important is that difference in price versus me getting to that lead as soon as possible?
Well, if you've called them before they made it to the other site, it doesn't really matter, is what I would say. Right. I mean, the metric I've got is on average on a big ticket, high dollar appliance value purchase, it's 10.5 websites is how many times a consumer, they go to 10 different websites or 10.4 websites technically to try to evaluate. So price does matter, but if you can get a hold of that customer quickly before they are making it to the next batch of sites, you're going to have you're going to have a much higher conversion rate. And we've got kind of, pull up this data here. If some of our larger metrics, if you connect with them in less than an hour, is a 52% close rate. In 2 hours, it's 46, 8 hours, 42, and it goes down and down and down and down from there.
So you've seen Rent-A-Own, I've seen Rent-A-Own. What is Rent-A-Own telling you? What is an average time in the span of all the stores in Rent-A-Own that you have that we actually get back to that lead quick enough?
I mean, I could show you the dashboards. Every company is different and you can kind of look at that. But I will tell you the guys that are the most aggressive, that are part of what we do, try to have a sub 2 hour contact time. And they're in whatever the role, either sales director or CRM director, whatever you want to call that person, is very militant about that and making sure that people are following up in a reasonable time fashion. But I mean, just in your own life, if you put in a lead, if somebody contacts you a day and a half later about it, you've already moved on.
I'm not talking to them. I'm going to tell you right now, if you call me a day and a half later, I'm not talking to you.
Exactly. So, but 5 years ago, that wouldn't have been the case, right? So that is now the world has just changed and consumer behavior has changed in such a way that there's an expectation of a very fast response.
Well, it's the instant gratification, right? I mean, when I order on whatever website, I'm not going to say which one it is, but when I order on a website and they say that it could be there in, between 4 and 8 a.m., well, I don't know if I really need it then because I'm not even going to be by my front door, but it just looks good, right? And so you go, okay, I'll pay $5 extra to make sure that it's here in front of my door when I'm not even going to get it because I'm so gratified by the fact that it's actually happening right away. And Ryan, I think you know that best, is that people just like to have it right then all the time. So you have this ecosystem that kind of works with generally almost all the OS systems that we have out there, and we know how fast that we need to get to them. What are some of the tricks of the trade? And I don't mean to get like too integrated because I don't want to know everything, but like, what is something that you would say, this is an offering that if you came to Wow Brands, this is probably the most basic package that we have. Something like maybe it's a website integration and because when you're talking about phones, that's a deep integration. When you're saying I can tell on a VoIP system or a voice over IP system that, hey, you've made this call here and you made that call there. I'm going to imagine that's somebody who's dedicated to making sure that their online is 100% secure. But not everybody can do that, right? Because we have some single store operators or some 3-store operators who would love to have that, but it's a little bit out of their zone as far as making sure that it's right. So like, what's something that basic that they can walk into to say, this covers a lot of area and maybe most bang for your buck?
So a couple of years ago, we started to design a product for the small stores, the 1 or 2 store retailers that because they're the one. I mean, they need the boost. They're the ones that really need the online presence, and we've kind of designed a solution that works for our solution that's like, I believe it's sub 4 stores. So anybody sub 4 stores, we have a technology solution that's effectively, we can get you a site up running really quickly. What you care about, and I think our pricing is even on the website, it's $800 a month per store. I mean, that's our pricing. And as you get to a larger number of stores, we tier those prices down. But our prices are right there, and our CRM prices are static as well. All of that stuff kind of comes as part of the package, meaning we'll handle the marketing, the SEO, the CRM is included as long as you're in you got to be on one of those 3 platforms, obviously, for it to be meaningful. And then if you have a VoIP system, we don't charge, we'll just integrate it for you for free. There's no cost of doing those types like VoIP integration.
Wow.
So we integrate with, I can tell you off the top of my head, we have Spectrum, we have Nextiva, we're working on Granite, and I just talked to somebody yesterday. I mean, we'll do the VoIP as long as you got a VoIP system, as long as you can get me call logs in some capacity, we'll do that integration for free.
That's actually amazing. That's actually really good to hear for people who might not have all the ability to invest, and you have those small store packages. Yep. I actually know a few people who definitely might be interested in that. So you've got big packages, you've got small packages that actually sound amazing. And to be honest with you, I think that's the way to go for a lot of people that I know. So when you had mentioned something, because there was a lot of passion in the last time we talked. It was like, I want to get these guys sales. That's what we do. So how does the CEO and the CTO, right? It's the Chief Technical Officer. How did they get together in Ryan and become Wow Brands? Like, how did that happen?
Well,
they're usually separated. You know what I mean? They're usually like not the same role.
Yeah, it happened somewhat organically. I've always been the technology guy. I've always been the nerd. Built all the software to start out with, and as just time has progressed, it's gotten bigger than me. So we've slowly, we're up to 35-ish people at this point across all the different channels of marketing that we do. At the core of it, I'm a nerd. I understand the analytics, I understand the marketing, I understand the technology, and I try to approach everything from a return on investment. If you're not getting a return on investment, you shouldn't be using us, just to be very blunt. And you really shouldn't be using anybody. If you can't measure it and you can't map it and you can't prove that, hey, before I came to you, I had 100 leads, and after I came to you, I'm at 300 leads, or whatever those numbers may be, you're getting ripped off. Like, we're taking your money and you shouldn't be. We're very much about trying to provide a return on investment for all of our customers. And I would argue that's probably the reason we've been, successful in the industry. Is the end of the day, if you're going to spend your marketing dollars, you need to know that it's effective, and you need to be able to generate sales. If you can't generate sales, you're wasting your time. And we've tried lots of different ways. We've wasted a lot of money, and we've spent a lot of money, I should say, on different methodologies of how to convert leads and how to get stuff and how to get consumer data, and doing a full application versus a small application, doing a payment versus a non-payment. And we've kind of tested all those things. And the benefit of where we're at now is we represent so many different stores. We can test things out on one company. And if it works great, we can roll it out to the entire group. So we kind of have that benefit of, if we know what works. I mean, one of the stats I've shown before is getting a $1 down payment is better than an entire application by 100%. Like, you'll get a 30% close rate on an entire big application with everything you ever need. But if you also just get $2, $1 down, those people are hounding you for the sell. They're coming to you. I gave you money. Where's my product? That's a much different methodology or mentality. So we really try to focus on lead generation. We try to focus on lead generation through all different sources, paid, organic, just your website. You've got to generate leads, and then we try to provide you a solution or a technology solution to be able to close those leads in a more efficient manner.
So you're talking technical, right? You're getting down to the brass tacks of it. This is how we do it. This is what we're going to do, and this is how you can make it more efficient. So then, did you create is your creation Wow Brands? That was your whole situation?
We started Wow Brands in 2008. So we've been at this for 16 years now. I started off with a partner, and we sold the company. And then about 3 years ago, I bought it back. So I bought it back, and I got a partner in it, but we've basically taken the company now and as we purchased it back, we really have turned it into I'm going to say almost exclusively in a rent to own. We still do other retail technologies because we have a lot of legacy clients as it relates to the retail world, but we're primarily focusing all of our efforts on how do we grow the rent to own space? How do we provide better solutions? How do we provide better technologies? And in my opinion, as long as we continue to do good work and we provide people a good return on their investment, they're not going to go anywhere.
So you're an A Pro. You've got people coming by. You're the guy, right? You're the chief technical officer. You're the CEO. You can probably answer every single question that somebody has. In those situations that are people coming by and saying, hey, what's Wow Brands and what's going on? How does that transition happen? Like, do you pull them to the side and say, this is everything I got? Or is it one of those, let me give you a card and let me talk to you when we have a chance?
It's either or. I mean, typically the way people find us is they've been referred in some capacity. So we don't get a ton of walk-ups of just people that have never heard of us. We get some of those, but the majority of the people have already heard of us, or they've seen me speak, or they've seen whatever. Our links are also at the bottom of almost all of our customer websites. So we typically are getting, let's say, leads from our website, or our RTO dealers are giving us a call in that capacity. We don't get a ton of like walk-ups. The shows for us are more around just meeting our customers and talking to them. But from a comprehensive, we'll explain to these guys what we're doing, how it works, what the functionality is. Really, all we can do is pull up a couple websites that we work on and show this is how it works. Because every month we're rolling out promotions. We're trying to keep the websites fresh. That's one of the things we've learned in the sector. Your consumers will continue to come back to your site if you give them a reason to, but you've got to give them a reason to. If you don't give them a reason, they're not coming back. They're only going to come back when they need something.
So when you do these monthly things, is that something where you sit down with the RTO dealer and go, okay, let's go over 6 months worth of monthly deals so that we know what's coming up and then knock it out?
Yeah. I mean, we try to do, give me 1 second. Let me turn that off. We will plan out a couple months in advance. We partner with Countryside on a lot of this. So we'll take a lot of their promotions and some of their print work. We have some people there that help us out a lot, Jess and Kate specifically. And they will help us they will tell us their promotions. And for the rest of the group, we will often use something that resembles that. Or we've got a promotion library now of about 4 years of promotions. Oh, wow. So if it's something that you don't want to go with this promotion that we've got in the next month, or next month is your customer appreciation month, we'll design or build out something specifically for your promotion in the types of things that you want to focus on. We will often give you, like, we've got the rest of the year kind of planned out. We know roughly what is happening, what the promotions are going to be. On the dealer side of it, their responsibilities: do they want to go with it? Yes or no? Do they want to change? Well, what products do they want to feature? What are the gift? Do they want to do 2 weeks free or 4 weeks free? Do they want to do $20 down or $10 down? That type of stuff. But really, we're turning these sites every 30 days. The website is fresh. There's a new promotion, a new game, and I know sometimes they're cheesy, but they work. I can provide you the data. I can show you how many leads they generate. These things generate a monstrous number of leads. They keep the site fresh, and the consumers that are often on their browsing will come back every month or two, and they're back on the site playing a game. They're on the website doing something that generates a lead in some capacity.
So then I got to know, because if you're doing rent to own and you're kind of dialed in the way you are, you understand pretty much everything. Then here's a question, right? I know that you got RTO or Countryside Rentals, right? Or rent to own. You've got Magic Rentals on there. They're not close. But what happens when you start getting two companies that are a little bit too dialed in? Because here's the truth. When you see us at April, when you see us at Trip, we're all friendly, right? We're like, yeah, we're all good. And how you doing things and how am I doing things? But when we get back, I still have sales to make, right? I still want to grow my brand and my store. And I want to make sure that I'm on the top of the charts. So how does it work when you start coming across, people like, let's say, who rent to own, who have a big chunk of Ohio, right? Yep. And then you've got somebody who's knocking on their door and they come up to Wowbrands and go, hey, this is what you're doing for them. You're doing a great job. I'd like to be a part of that too. How does that work?
It doesn't. So we won't take overlapping customers is one of the things that kind of are I'm going to say unique selling propositions, because the reality is, for this to be successful, I can only rank one site number one. Right. It's one site number one, and I can't rank two sites. Sorry. I don't know if that's weird, but one site number one.
A little funny right there.
Yeah, I don't know. The video is blurry, but you can only rank one site number one. I can't make two sites number one in the same city. That's just not going to happen. You can't. There's only one spot. So we won't take overlapping customers. And if there are scenarios where I'll use Arona as an example. They got stores throughout the U.S. They've got 50-some stores spread out through, I think it's 10 different states. For that to be effective, we will go to the owners there and ask them, if we got a customer that's in their area, are you okay with us taking this or not? And if they say no, we won't take the customer. I mean, because a lot of what we're doing is there's a value in sharing data. And in our CRM software, you can compare how you're doing against all of your peers. So we give you real-time insight, and you can see how is this company doing? What is their close percentage? And we try to create a community in some capacity where they can share information in an open way. And there's not a good way to solve that problem with overlapping customers. So we just don't do overlapping.
Yeah, well, that's why I wanted to ask, because like you said, you want to be at the top. You want, when you're in a search engine and whatever you're putting, whether it's rent to own, furniture, lease agreements, you want to be that number one. And if you can't be that number one, at least close to number two, right? You don't want to be way down the list. And if you have a couple of different people, it's like, what do you do? How does that work? So you cover, I would imagine, the 50 states proper. Do you cover anything outside? Because I know that we have some rent to owns in Guam. We have them in Mexico. We have a couple different iterations of rent to own outside of I would say four walls of the U.S., but the borders of the U.S. How does that work? And do you guys do that?
I mean, there's only we talked to Dan, right, from Dial. He's the Guam guy.
Right,
so we just talked to him this week, but he's in a unique situation where he doesn't have any competition. So,
well, that's great.
Kind of doesn't need to spend the money on us because he owns the markets. Right. We do something in Puerto Rico, for example, though. I know Arona has 2 or 3 stores there that we do. But that's a lot. I mean, we do, I think the majority of our dealers are in the Midwest. I'll tell you that. Or in the West, on the East Coast, Midwest, some in the Kansas, Missouri area. We don't have a ton out West with the exception of in Idaho.
Well, we're going to Nebraska next year, 2024. April is going to have in Omaha, Nebraska. They are going to do A-Pro's version of RTO World 2025. It's going to get as close over there as humanly possible. I mean, the year before that, we were in Indiana, so I guess that's a pretty decent side west. But here, you're going to be in the middle of the United States where we can kind of talk to everybody and see everybody, because everybody's going to have to fly in, because that is the number one flyover state in America. Because I can't tell you anybody who actually lives there, except for Chad Fosdick. He does there, and I know he's got some premier guys over there. And I don't know if he uses you or not, but that is definitely a flyover state. I've flown over that thing 100 times.
Yep.
So one of those things. But as far as the Wow Brands is concerned, right? Rent to Own does a lot of CRM. And in case anybody who doesn't know what that is, that's your customer relations manager. And one of the problems that Rent to Own had with customer relation managers is that they were always tailored to a sales side, not necessarily the Rent to Own side. And so now you're saying that you have a CRM. You guys have been doing this for quite a few years, 10 years or so. And then now you're kind of more dialed in since you bought the company back. How different is your CRM versus some other CRMs that aren't tailored to Rent to Own?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's completely built for rent to own. So there are things like agreements are just native and built into the system. So it's trying to pull in agreements. It's trying to pull in customer data. We kind of divide our CRM into really 3 sections. The first one is web leads, which are the leads that come directly from the website. Those are people that have come to your website, engaged with you in some capacity, and given us your information. So first name, last name, email, phone, store number, or store rather. We force that as kind of a basic requirement for everything. The second thing that we found as we started doing the CRM is there was not a lot of tracking that was taking place for people that walked into the store. So whether you want to call them a walk-in leader, community, whatever term you want to use, and every dealer uses a different phrase, but we built our system so that you can, number one, enter those and start to track them. And it'll also, if somebody walks in or you interact with them or you meet them at a show or you have a tent sale or a fair or whatever it is, you're grabbing that information, you're putting them in the CRM, and then you're able to manage and work those leads in the same way, because those are just as good or frankly better than somebody who just came to your website. But for the longest time, those weren't being tracked. So we've got that part in there. And then the third part is, I think, probably the unique selling proposition of what we're doing, which is, how do I reach out to the customers or the historic customers that I've had? And I think every RTO dealer that we've interacted with tends to have something that resembles a solicitation schedule. So on Mondays, I'm calling these guys. Tuesdays, I'm calling these guys. Wednesdays, I'm calling these guys. We try to put that right in front of you. So when we set this up and customize it for you, you could say on Mondays, I want to call all of my payouts from last month. And we'll organize that so that when you come in, you can select my list for Monday. I select my payouts list, and it's going to provide you, here's all the payouts that you had last week, or whatever the time phrase or time period you chose is. We have a payout list. We have return list. We have 1 AORs. We have new rentals. We have same as cash expirations, birthdays, anniversaries, whatever those types of lists are that you want to do. the partners we have, Versa or High Touch, we can go to those, or RTO Pro, we could go to those guys and say, I need a new report. The customer's requesting something like this for a specific data set, and they will provide it to us. So that's kind of where we've gotten with this. And we'll build those lists to match whatever solicitation schedule you currently have, or we can recommend one to you that is just kind of a copy off of somebody else.
So then let's say I'm a new dealer, right? Because I've actually looked into it several times myself, and I can't tell you that I'm never going to do it, but I am looking into it because, we do rent to own, right? And so if I was to go and have a new company, right? I don't have anybody who's paid off before. I don't have any returns. I don't have any of that base information there. Does Wow Brands have a way of making it so that the new dealers, somebody who's coming into a fresh market, at least for themselves, who doesn't have all that ground information already innately built into the Versa Rent system or the High Touch system where you have years of return this and pay off that? How does Wow Brands deal with that as far as a new company is concerned?
Well, if you're a new company, your only option is to focus on lead generation. Your sales opportunity to existing customers just doesn't exist. So we would put the majority of the emphasis and focus on lead generation, specifically competitor. We'd go after your competitors. Who are your competitors in the market? How do we pull traffic from them? How do we pull those leads? Our primary goal in that type of scenario is to make sure you're ranking number one and you're pulling in as much traffic as you possibly can, because your only sales opportunity is new sales. You don't have anybody to go after.
Well, that you better be closing it within 2 hours is what else you're doing, right?
You better be closing sales. And to be fair, the guys that are the smaller ones they're very militant about that. I mean, they're going to make sure when that lead comes in, they're calling them because that's their livelihood for tomorrow.
Yes. Well, I mean, you're talking about $800 a month. It might not mean a lot to somebody's got 20 stores. It definitely means a lot to somebody's got 2 or 3, because that's a chunk of what it is, your revenues that you're bringing in. You got to show something for it. And I think a lot of these guys definitely understand that. It's just nice to know that there's a place to go to get all this. Now, I've mentioned it before. I've had several people mention it to me. And it's probably the topic that I've talked about quite most every time that I talk to somebody on the podcast. And it's always like, hey, what do you think is coming around the corner? And 9 out of 10 times I hear it's AI. Is there an AI factor that's built into Wow Brands and what you guys do? Or is it all it's all number driven? I know exactly what it is. And this algorithm tells me exactly what I need to do.
Oh, good question. I would say that AI is going to play an important part, but I don't see a terribly good use case in the next 5 years for RTO. What I can say that my opinion of where this goes in the next 5 years is more and more paid ads management, because that's Google is not stopping on their ads push. 5 years ago, it was 1 or 2 ads. 2 years ago, it was 2 or 3 ads. And now you're up to 4 or 5 ads. If they own 95% of the mobile search market, which is the majority of the rent-to-own customer, if they own 95% of that market, for you to be effective, you're going to have to be better at paid ads. That's a reality. Because if you don't, you're scrolling down on a mobile phone, you're scrolling all the way down the page before you get to the first organic result. So if you had to say what in the next 5 years is going to be the most important factor, I would probably argue it's paid ads management.
So it's a little bit off topic here, but so Google's doing all these ad revenues. Of course, revenue is what drives everything, right?
Yep.
But is it basically because they're driving ad revenue because they need the revenue? Or is it because there's so many more companies out now that are trying to advertise that we don't have a choice but to increase our ad revenue because everybody's fighting for that same space?
I think that's part. I think it's both of those. Number one, it's not like they need the revenue, but that's what they do. That's how they print money is ads and search. And the majority of Google revenue is coming from that. And that is where they're seeing not all their growth, but the majority of their growth is coming from that specific area. They're not going to stop on that. That's just the reality of it. What is going to happen and what's already happening is the search. There's a pie. There's a total number of people that are searching and that pie is very much economic driven, meaning as inflation goes up or down, oil prices go up or down, especially in the RTO sector world, that is going to either make that pie bigger or smaller. And it will become your job at the store level to buy and acquire as much of that pie as you possibly can. So Google is really, and they're not going to stop on this. I keep hammering it, and I tell this to every customer, and they're tired of hearing me say this. I know that because they're just the cop out, almost a cop out of, it's going to just, I need more ads money. I need more ads money. But that's the reality of the world that we're in today. And if you're not in that spot, your competitors are going to be, because I buy it. I mean, I'm going to buy against my competitors. Of course I am. That's what we do, is you want to go after your competitors. You want to acquire the customers. You want to pull every dang click from them you possibly can.
So in rent to own, there's a lot of different ways that can be marketed, but we either do or we don't. Somebody like John Cleese Jr. is on TV. He's on the radio. You can't turn the dial without seeing his face. Now, he owns that part of the area that he's in. Yep. Okay, sounds good. But when I look at Tisset, he kind of does it a little bit differently. And he's a lot more on social media. They do the Facebook Lives. You can dial in on every given week and see him, waiting for 3 or 4 more people to get on because he's got stuff to say. What's more effective now in rent to own? Is it the TV space? Is it do I need to be more on YouTube? Is it I should still stay with social media because I maybe get more bang for my buck, even though now it's a pay to play system regardless? Like, where does RTO hit hardest that you've seen? Should we all be doing radio? Nobody needs to do podcasts. But do we all need to do radio? Like, what's going on?
Here's what my focus not right now, but in general is you've got to be in front of the consumers that are looking for your product or service. So where do people look? People don't go to Facebook to rent a couch. They go to Google, right? So you've got to be where your consumers are at. The other side of marketing, and I think I would put that into the bucket of that. I don't know what the term for that is, but those are people that are actively looking for your product or service. That's where you've got to be in front of. And that's really at the Wowbrands level. That is what we focus on. Okay. I typically don't touch the other things because in the Google world, I can prove that return on investment. I can tangibly show you that if you give me X dollars, you're going to get Y results. I can hand you those reports, and all of our customers get those reports. We can kind of prove that. When you start to get into the other world, you are trying to acquire traffic from people that may not be looking for you. So there's different parts of that. One is they're not always looking. It doesn't mean you can't sell to them, but they are not on Facebook looking for renting a couch. That's not how it works. They're not on LinkedIn, not on YouTube necessarily looking for those things. Those things have a different, not position. Those things have a different application, I guess, in the marketing world. Facebook is about staying in front of the customers that already know who you are. That's what Facebook is all about. The guys that have already followed me, and by the way, if you don't put money behind your ads on or your stuff on Facebook, only 4% of it gets seen. The other 96% doesn't get seen unless you put money behind it. Yeah. So again, Facebook is not a charity. They're in the money making business, and 100% of their revenue comes from ads. It's the same thing. And there are guys like Gerard that excel at this type of stuff. This is what he does. I tend not to touch that world because I'm more interested and focused specifically on how do I get the people that are looking for my product and services. And there are other individuals, and there are things at the store level and the reason Tiz excels so much on Facebook is his managers really, they connect with their customers. It's a personnel thing. His managers really connect with their customers. They've invested 5, 7, 10 years of time into building their Facebook audience. You've got to build that audience before it's going to have a meaningful impact on anything you're doing anyways. So there's not a direct answer. One is that you're trying to grab the Google and the website world is much more about grabbing consumers that are looking for your product and services, whereas the Facebook level or the radio or the OTT, and we partner with Esquire and they do a lot of the OTT type of advertising. Yes. That's a different type of demographic. That's trying to hit a set of individuals who are qualified to buy from you, the type of demographic that you would be going after. They're trying to reach out to those consumers and actively solicit in some way a response, whether that's a click, it's a phone call, it's a store visit. They're trying to solicit that. Our primary approach is how do I make sure that the people that are looking for our products and services can find us?
That makes a lot of sense. I was like, I love Adam Ball. I love Esquire. They do a great job. But, because we always wonder, right? There's somebody that's looking. There's somebody that has a need today. They're looking today. Yep. But then how do you reach the guy for tomorrow? And I think the idea always is if we stay in front of them in some way, shape, or form when they have that need, we will be when they come to. And you're saying that's a whole different side. That's more Gerard than it is Ryan, right?
That's 100%. It's more Gerard than it is. Or it's really, the hard part about it is it's really hard to pay somebody else for that type of a service. Let's ignore ads management. The organic Facebook, the live, the streaming, you can't pay me to do that. Like, I don't know. The customers don't know me. They don't walk in the store and see me. They walk in the store and see a store manager who knows them by name. Or a sales associate. It doesn't have to be a manager, anybody in that store. But it's really hard to pay me or pay us at Wow Brands to do those types of things because your customers don't know who we are. Yes, we can take your assets and build, social profiles and build ads or organic posts from you. But again, somebody's got, like, they're there because they know who you are. They know your store. They know your salespeople. That's really hard to outsource.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, and it always crossed my mind because a lot of people ask me about, the marketing sense. And because you see my face and you hear my voice, doesn't mean that I'm a marketing guru. It means that I know how to talk to people. There is a difference. So, and so when they talk about, hey, Pete, what do you think is the best way to go? I think it's really just depends on how you sell and what it is that you plan on doing about it, because you have to really be dialed in. If you're going to put the ad space on Google, if you're going to make sure that you're capturing those leads, you also got to make sure that you have somebody standing there, like you said, ready to go. And they have to be able to contact that lead, and they have to be able to have that salesmanship on the other end of the phone and go, hey, I have this available for you. This is what I want to do for you. What else can I get for you? Do you have any referrals? What time today you're going to be home? And launch that. Because if I put all my money into those ads and then somebody starts calling in and I have nobody to take that call, well, then I'm wasting it. But maybe doing it through Gerard is the way to go. Maybe doing it through Wowbrands is the way to go. Maybe the way to do it is to hybrid both and figure out how to get everybody and anybody to come to my store and buy everything that I got. And God knows that would be great, right? So to make a killing out of it. So you always got to check and just see for yourself, what are you ready to do? And I think Wowbrands has a really great idea. I love the way that you tackle it. And I love the way that you look at it too, because it's very number and I want to say just very technically driven. This is what I can do for you. This is where it's going to go. This is how far it can get. And then the rest is, so to speak, in your court, right? This just depends on how much you want to put into this. Depends also how much you're going to get out of it. So if you have somebody there who's willing to, kind of put that call down real quick so that they can grab that online lead and say, hey, I know that you were looking literally a couple of minutes ago and I can handle that. I have this, I have that, I have a variation of that. And we have some lamps to match. So, it's one of those things where, you can kill it. And then you can see the verifiable information that, hey, they are picking up that phone within the first 30 minutes, within the first 45 minutes. We're stopping them mid-swing or mid-swipe, so to speak. I'm swiping right to this RTO and I'm swiping left to that RTO. And if we can get in there and kind of just interrupt that with oh, you know what? I was swiping. Now I've got to answer this call or earpiece or whatever you want to call it. Listen, I'm a little old school. I like the big mic and the earphones because that's the way I am. But, everybody's a little different. And so I think it's great that Wowbrands can really kind of dial in and tell you, hey, this is really what you're looking for. This is how we can help you. And this is what we want to do. A CRM to cover everything that's actually specific to rent to own. We don't have many of those out there. I know Gerard's working on one. Gerard, I love you. I'll tell you right now, you got some competition out there, but the CRM space is so important because it helps you do some of that capturing, right? Does it have, when that funnel happens, what is the latency on that? I mean, how between the time that somebody's really looking and the time that it makes it to the store, how much time is there?
From our side, it's instant. It's up to you whether or not, you see it instantly or, and we've got a couple different ways we can do it. One is you can get an email, or you do get an email, I should say that. That sometimes has a latency of 5 minutes, right? That's not on us. That's just on the email delivery process. If you're actively live in the CRM and you have it open on a computer, we do have things like sound notification. So it can make a ding on a computer in the store so that whenever a lead comes in, you instantly get a ding. You can set up text messaging so that you get a text message on your personal phone or whatever, so that when a lead comes in, you can instantly get a text message to know that you've got to do something. But I go back to it really is that just consumer behavior has changed in the last 3 years since COVID. It has facilitated a different way and a different buying experience. And part of that process, I think part of the challenge in the RTO sector is adapting to just the way the consumers buy now, because it is fundamentally different than it was before.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely tell you in the last 5 years, we went from phone rings and door swings to, did you check the online leads yet? Have you checked that? Right. And you know what? And I mean, you always want to make sure your showroom is 100%. You always want to make sure that you're rent ready. You always want to make sure that the lights are on and the door is open and everything works. But the truth is, sitting behind a desk and making sure that you're quick and ready to go is almost always going to beat it out. I get just as many online leads as I have walk-ins. I rarely have more walk-ins than I do online leads. That's a rare situation.
Now, from your standpoint, which one do you close better?
You know what? We need to do better. And I can tell you that right now. We need to do better. Are we trying it? Sure. But I talked to Gerard about that because there was this thing that, I'm a little bit more old school. Okay. If you put somebody in front of me, they're walking out with something. I'm telling you that as 100%. And am I better at it than I used to be as far as the digital space? I am. But the digital conversation, I'm having a little bit of trouble with that. Some of my guys are just like, hey, do you want this or do you not want it? And there's no salesmanship into it, right? So they're just going straight into a text message or an email, and they're kind of just going straight into it. And even though it's a digital conversation, there's still some nuance there. And so I was actually talking to Gerard about that, about digital conversations. We actually did a podcast about that because it was so important to me to let everybody know, yeah, you can call them in a certain amount of time, but if you sound like the CRM, they're probably not going to pay attention to you, right? You got to approach them as a person to person, not talking. And you can't, one of the things that he told me was you got to text like you talk, not text like you're writing a paragraph out to the president. You want to make sure that all your P's and Q's are 100%. The idea is to be personable over this line of communication, whatever media form that is, whether it be text, whether it be email, whether it be a phone call, whatever the case is, reach out to the customer the way they reached out to you. And always remember, put a little smile on it. When you type it, smile. I don't know if that, that makes any sense when, they're like, when you're on the phone, you got to smile. Well, when you're texting, you got to smile because it really does go through and the lead conversion does change. And I probably sound like a third grade robot from, back in the day. I like a little Apple system and I got to slip my disc in, but I know people that are younger than me that handle that way better. And so they're actually better at texting. And sometimes it's like, okay, you still got to answer the telephone. So we have that right now where you have some people that are like, I love it when they walk in the door and I love it when they call me. And you got some guys that are like, yeah, I like the email and the text. Getting those to merge is got to be the hardest thing right now. And I don't know why that is. It's like an oil and water kind of thing where I've noticed coming out of COVID as well, we have a more mature generation that is shake your hand and still kind of be in your face. And then we have another one that's like, that came out of COVID going, I'm cool with the barriers. I'm cool with you being on the other side of the glass and getting those two to realize in the same salesperson has been difficult, So I think
the answer to that is it's almost an age thing.
It is.
Right.
No,
so if you look at the Gen Z boomer generation, I'm looking at this metric in front of me. They want to do in-person sales. Those are the people that are walking in. The younger generation, the Gen Z, the millennials, they want text the majority of the time. You're talking about
Gen X and boomers.
Yeah, sorry, Gen X and Z.
Gen X and yeah.
Sorry, Gen X is the I believe it's 1989 or older, right? So those are the older people. That's kind of my generation a little bit. Yeah. The Gen Xers, those guys are still comfortable texting, or they're still comfortable texting, but they often, especially on big ticket items, want to physically see it, to physically touch it. But a Gen Z doesn't really care a lot of the time.
Right.
They are so accustomed, and they often came up during the COVID era when this was now this became a forced behavior. This became a forced thing that had to happen. So they are just so accustomed to the texting world that there really is, the hard part is you don't know who you're talking to, right? You don't know the age of the person you're talking to, but it tends to be an age thing more than anything else.
So, it's weird. A year or so ago, I had somebody that I worked with very closely, and it was crazy how different we approached everything. So he was like, I'm texting, and we'd be talking. I'm calling my guys, and I'm like, dude, what are your fingers doing? And he's like, I'm texting my guys. And I'm like, dude, just call him. And he's like, no, not going to happen. So he's like, ding, ding. And he's doing over there and ding. And I'm like, dude, that's dry. Like I would go absolutely batty. Right. Yep. But he's in the middle of 3 different text messages and he's going back and forth. And that was his thing. Okay. We're talking about a millennial here.
Yep.
And so I'm like, listen, I'm going to talk to you. You're going to hear the inflection of my voice, get it done, or you did a great job. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like you can hear that coming out of my voice. Uh-huh. Whatever he was doing, it must have worked. Cause I mean, I can't say it didn't, so he's in the middle of 3 text messages. He's like, well, I can have 3 messages going on at once. You talking to one person. And I'm like, yeah, well, I bet you that one person knows exactly what the hell I got to say. You know what I mean? They know if you're in trouble, you're going to know you're in trouble. If you did a great job, you're going to know that too. So here comes the talk about emojis and everything. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. But so then we talked about radio. And it was the same thing. He's like, I don't listen to the radio. I'm like, what do you mean you don't listen to, who doesn't listen to the radio? I'm like, bro, I'm in a car like all day. We go to stores, right? And he's like, yeah, I listen to like, Pandora, or I listen to Spotify, or I listen to something that gets very dialed in. I know what I want to listen to. And so I listen to that. And so, I mean, yeah, I might get a commercial, but it's not the same commercials. But you're right. You're absolutely right. Where I would listen to it all day long, and I'm listening to ads or all kinds of different things that have nothing to do with me, right? He was different. Okay, well, do you watch TV? I watch TV. What do you watch? I watch none but Netflix and Hulu. And it's like, how could we be so dang different? But the truth of the matter is, that's the difference between one generation and the next. One's like very, very tech savvy, very, very on the phone. I mean, a phone has almost turned into an extension of who they are versus, I'm going to say some of the Gen Xers and the boomers, like, I can leave my phone on the counter because I really just, it's a means to an end, but I really can live without it. Like, I just don't need it. So it's crazy. My wife's that way too. My wife's actually a millennial. And man, let me tell you, like, sometimes I'm like, please put the phone down. But that's how she does everything that we do. She's immediately on the phone. She shops 100% on the phone. If we talk about anything, she's immediately on the phone. And it's crazy because you're right. If somebody's shopping, they're on Google. That's the first thing that they do. Where can I find it? What it is I'm looking, and it's not, like you said, almost not even price point. It's just, where is this sofa? Where is this TV? Where is this? And then I can dial that in even further. Okay, well, it's in 3 miles. Okay, what's in 3 miles? All right, I've got these 3 stores. Now I'm looking at these 3 stores. It's so crazy how things have gotten lately. But in the sense, I think Wowbrands really got it dialed in. I mean, you guys have a really great idea on how to turn those leads into sales, so to speak, if we're on top of it.
Yeah, I mean, this all boils down. I'm going to say it all boils down to age, for the way in which the consumers are buying. The older generation tends to want to be, they're often desktop users. They specifically are going to be in person. They're going to want to see it, physically touch the product in most scenarios, not always. But that younger generation, I'm assuming the person you're talking about is probably younger than you are.
Yes.
And they are very much comfortable and familiar with interacting not over the phone. In fact, they prefer that. They don't want you to call them. How many times, I mean, you're just going to get hung up on. They don't want to talk to you.
Oh my God. My wife, she will die before she answers the phone. And I'm like, just call.
Nope.
Hence, if we order something out, if they don't have a menu online, it's not getting bought. We're just not eating it. Because to me, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to place this order. I'll go there and pick it up. Nope. My wife is like, it ain't happening. I'm not talking to anybody. She doesn't even talk to them at Walmart. She's like, I'll just search online and it'll tell me what aisle. And if not, guess what? I will roam this sucker till I find it. I'm like, I will just talk to that guy, right? He's like right there. She's like, not going to happen. And so it's just crazy how different we are. Not because she is 8 years younger than I am. So yes, it does represent that millennial kind of mindset and the Gen Z or Gen X mindset. But it's like, it's a real thing. If I never saw it, I wouldn't believe it. And so saying that it translates to our RTO customers and how they shop is absolutely real. And it's great to see that you guys have been able to dial in so well and get this done. Listen, guys, if you guys have any questions that you wanted to ask Wowbrands, absolutely hit me up on the DMs. You know, I'm on Facebook. You know, I'm on Instagram. You know, I'm on LinkedIn. Hit me up there. If not, you can email me at pete@thertoshowpodcast.com. Feel free to hit me up. I will definitely hit up Ryan and go, hey, what is going on with this? How do we get this done? We have no idea what we're talking about or what we're doing. And how would you solve this problem? If you guys want to have Wowbrands a part of your brand, please feel free to reach out to them. Ryan, how would they talk to you?
Wowbrands.com, WOWBRANDS.com, and give us a call or send us an email.
You guys make it easy. It's so direct. Go to wowbrands.com. Listen, I just looked them up. There is so much information on their website, and I'm going to give you a lot of examples of what they can do for you. You can't get better than talking to Ryan right now, the CEO, CTO. Listen, the FBI and the CIA, whatever you want to call it, he's all of those, right? And he can get in there and he can make it happen for you. Thank you so much today for coming on the show, Ryan, because honestly, I think a lot of people need to understand how integrated and how dialed in that you guys can get. And Wowbrands can actually do that pretty much on the platforms that you're using right now. And if you're not going to make those sales, listen, you might want to check if your phone's ringing and the door's swinging, because he's going to give it to you, plain and simple. Numbers don't lie. Ryan, I really appreciate you being on the show. Is there anything that you want to say before we get out of here, before we close it up today?
Thanks for the opportunity. I will give you one piece of advice for any dealer out there. Today, the number one thing that is going to help you rank locally is reviews. So don't stop. You've got to focus on Google reviews if you want to rank.
Man, you know what? I'm glad you said that. That's the freebie for the day. If you're watching the show, rate the show as well. Thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate you coming aboard, and we'll talk to you later.
Thanks.